Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning in to my review of the CRKT and Ken Onion Slacker knife. In this review, we're going to show you some test footage. We're going to show you how this knife stacks up to a bunch of other CRKT and Ken Onion designs, how some of those qualities and some of those features have carried over into this design. And we're going to talk about sort of the quality of the materials, how it's held up for some good EDC use, and some solid cutting as well. I'm going to demonstrate some of that, show some of that footage for you. Lots to talk about, so I hope you stick around for the full review. Let's get into sort of the 1-minute version of the review. We've got a 41/16 steel blade, aluminum handle scales with the Fieldstrip technology on it. Talk about that more in a second. One position, pocket clip. It's tipped down, perfectly positioned for a right-hander like me. Some texturing that does an okay job. Little grooves up there on top that I'll talk about a little bit more. Flat ground blade on it, lovely blade shape. Only 2.5 ounces, about $80 is what it costs currently. Price may go down in the future. And that is maybe the 1.5 or 1-ish minute review. And for all of that, I really, really like it. I think it carries well, it performs really well. Came with a good sharp edge out of the box and resharpens easily. That alone, I mean, if that's all you're interested in knowing, those are the details, and it's a great knife, and you probably will enjoy having it, carrying it, and using it. Link down below if you're interested. Let's get into the longer version of the review, though, and give you more of the details. So, as you can see there, it is a flipper opening, and it is a liner lock, or a variant of the liner lock, where it has the sort of the lock portion of that buried into the handle scale. And I can demonstrate, or I can show you a couple other examples of that same sort of lock type. That's one Ken Onion has used for a long time. I think the first version of that I saw was on the Kershaw Blur. That's the earliest one I remember anyway. And it's been kind of present on a lot of other Ken Onion knives going forward. My opinion on it, I think it's fine. You know, it's as far as, and here's the lockup, just so you know about where that lands. And then this one has been, you know, good solid lockup on it as far as its performance and daily use. So as far as, you know, is that a good version of the liner lock? Is that an okay variety to get into? I think it's fine. I don't really have big complaints about it. And again, there are a few other versions, a few other knives that Ken Onion has made that carry that same sort of design forward. Most recently that I can recall is this one right here, the CRKT Homefront. Also has the same sort of liner lock that's buried into the scale like that. I think there's a name for that, but the name is escaping me and Google won't tell me what it is. Right here is the CRKT Foresight, came out several years ago. Big, beefy thing. Also a Ken Onion CRKT design. IKBS ball bearing pivot on it, just great. And you can see that it nests into the, not nests, but actually attaches to the handle scale as well. This aluminum, that is aluminum I should say, that one's aluminum and this one's aluminum. So this is kind of it appears to be at least, this is a material and a kind of a construction type that Ken Onion likes. As of right now, he seems to be using it a lot, and that's fine with me. Makes for a nice light knife, 6061 aluminum, so it's good quality aircraft grade aluminum. And so, you know, it may ding up a little bit, and I've noticed that on, I don't have it on the table here, one of their other knives that I reviewed last year, got lots and lots of dings in it. So as far as the sort of the coating on that aluminum, or the, you know, the color, whatever they do to it, it's not as strong and as hard as you might see on, I don't know, let's say an AR-15 receiver. Okay, it's not that tough, but it's fine for an EDC knife. It's just okay. You know, it's no big deal. It works all right. Getting into more of the details on this knife as far as sort of the design is concerned, you can see it's got a nice drop point to it, not quite Wharncliffe, but kind of moving towards that. And it's very reminiscent to me of another Ken Onion design, the Leak. Is classic Kershaw design that they've had out for who knows how long. You can see that some of the same lines, some of the same sort of influence and inspiration is present here in this knife, as we had there in the Leak. You know, he seems to like that almost Wharncliffe drop point. And that's kind of what the leak was. You know, it does sweep up slightly right there, as does the Slacker. It has just a very gradual sweep. It's not dramatic, not big. It's got more of a drop than it has a sweep in the blade, which is fine with me. As I said, I love the design of the Slacker. It's good, sort of aggressive blade shape, gets lots of work done easily, good tip on it, good sharp, nimble tip, and nice full flat grind to it makes just an aesthetic beauty of a knife. So from so many different perspectives and, you know, sort of using standpoints, I just love this thing. The pocket clip, nice and deep, wrap over sort of pocket clip, and the texturing is just okay. It looks more aggressive than it actually is. When you get it in hand, it's, you know, because the coating on the aluminum is not outstanding, it just does okay. It's just fine. But the flipper is good. It's got some hard resistance to it as you're just opening it up. So the ball detent down in there, I don't think you'll be able to make it out. Just barely you can. The ball detent right there is pretty strong. Okay, so you could open it up and do some work to that if you really wanted to soften it up a little bit. I'm not going to bother doing any of that. Talking about the Fieldstrip technology, let's jump into that. So Fieldstrip was introduced on the CRKT home front, and I thought it was pretty sweet technology. Now, they introduced a whole line of varieties of the home front before they passed this Fieldstrip technology onto other knives, but I knew when they introduced this that was going to be something that they were going to introduce into lots of sleeker, smaller, more interesting, more beautiful knives than the home front. Not that it's a bad looking knife, but it's, you know, it's big. It's big, it's kind of aggressive, it's got a military-ish look to it. Which is fine, but not my preference, not what I would like to carry more on an EDC basis. There's that hard push out. So the Slacker kind of delivers on that, delivers on both my prediction and what I was hoping for. It delivers both of those. We have a really nice, sleek, again, about 2.5 ounce EDC knife with a blade length, we haven't said that, about 3.3 inches, overall length of 7.62. Cutting edge is about 3.125, so a little less than the overall blade length, obviously. Blade thickness of about 0.11. And if I didn't already say it, blade material is 4116 or 1.4116, whatever. If there's a distinction between 1.4116 and straight up 4116, I don't know what it is. Maybe there is a distinction, because I've found myself to be pretty impressed with this blade steel, actually. And we might as well, we haven't talked about the Fieldstrip, we're going to in a second. We'll jump ahead of that for a second. The blade steel performed really well in the cutting tasks that I did, and I recorded some of that I want to share with you. So did a little bit of carving with it. Here's the result of that carving. This is a fork, a little like a camp fork, something you would use to carve, whittle for yourself, to eat your meals there at camp or whatever, you know, on the trail. Obviously just a little 2-prong fork, that's all you really need out of a fork. But found a little stick that, I don't remember what kind of a branch it was, but carved that using this knife and found it to be very, very easy to work with, doing all the cutting in all the positions and all the, you know, kind of pull cuts and cutting away and every other type of cut that I did in order to do whittling. And I really love, you know, sort of whittling stuff as a cut test, because you really have to reposition that knife in your hand a lot in order to get all the different cuts you need to do to make something like a fork or a spoon or a knife or whatever it is you're going to do. So whittling utensils is something that I've really enjoyed doing as a type of a knife test. And again, this thing did fantastic. Now, without cleaning or resharpening or anything to that blade edge, I went straight from that fork into some cardboard cut tests, and I cut and cut and cut for a good long bit. Cardboard can be pretty hard on your knife. You know, you're talking about 3 layers of craft. One of those is all doubled up and fluted, and then lots of glue in there too. So it's quite a bit of harsh paper to be cutting through with any kind of a knife. So good test for a knife. And again, it performed great. Cut through that stuff very quickly, sliced very, very well. The blade kind of got warm and heated up and kind of gluey as I was cutting, but gave it a little break, let it cool for a second, and it just kept cutting and cutting and cutting. And I felt like it was going to go quite a long time. It just feels perfect still. That's one little trick, by the way, if you've never done that. run your fingernail, the back of your fingernail along the edge of the knife. I feel a little something right there. Right, maybe right there. Maybe I need to do something, a little dead spot right there that I need to work on apparently. That's a little trick for sensing and spotting any kind of damage to your knife edge, because your fingernail just transfers that vibration very, very quickly and easily to your finger. And obviously you're not going to get hurt or cut doing it, but you can spot that problem area right away. So, but anyway, performed great in all of that. And so I'm really impressed with the 1.4116 steel that is used on this Ken Onion Slacker. Better than I anticipated. I'm not sure what to put it next to as far as other steels. I don't know. Would I say that it's as good as this stuff right here, 14C28N on the Leak? Possibly. I don't know. Or this is, I think it's a Kudo Plus on this guy right here, the Ripple. I think that's what this is. I believe that's Kudo Plus. Could be as good as that. Not sure. It's kind of tough to say exactly, given sort of a shorter test. But it performed really good, so I'm happy with it. And is it worth the $80 price tag? That's going to have to be up to you to decide. It really comes down to how much you like the design overall. I really like it. So I expect that price will probably drop in the next year, maybe 6 months or more. You'll probably be seeing this for around $50 come, I don't know, 2020, sometime around there, which to me is more appropriate. It's a more appropriate price for this level of knife, but that's just me. And I believe it's produced in China or Taiwan, I don't remember which, but overseas. So not USA produced. That's typical of a lot of CRKT knives. And again, good quality, so I'm not too concerned about it. Let's talk about the Fieldstrip technology. So we kind of leapfrogged over this. We started on it and then got away from it. Again, they introduced it here on the home front, also from Ken Onion and CRKT, and that technology is pretty awesome. It allows you to sort of take down your knife with no tools whatsoever. So you just take this little lever right here, rotate it like that, and then you undo this until it starts to click, and then it just kind of falls apart. And that's it. That's how you take your knife down. So you can get that super clean, super easy, which is awesome. I love that fact. Putting it back together is just about as easy. You just set that in there like that, lay the top scale on there, and then you just kind of do it in reverse. So you just kind of screw that back in, and then press that down, rotate that till it clicks. It should click here. Maybe I do that part first. There we go. And yeah, and that's it. And your knife is back together and ready to work. So cool. I think it's a very cool technology. I think it's got some downsides to it. We'll talk about that in a second, but this knife carries those exact same features. So all you got to do is rotate that. Again, break this little, I think you push it that way. Yeah, that's right. Sorry about the dirty fingers, guys. I was working on my daughter's bike earlier today. Hear that clicking? That means it's done turning, and then you just kind of pull that apart. You could just kind of throw it down and let it fall apart, but you can just as easily do that. And then the whole thing comes apart just like that. That's your whole knife ready to clean, ready to do all the maintenance you would ever need to do. Super cool mechanism. And the way that works is you can see that there's a little hex head right there on that pivot. And so that just fits into this little hole, which has a sort of a hex shaped hole to it on the other side. You can't quite see it here, but when you rotate that, all it's doing is turning that hex. And so that blocks, it kind of rides in this little track that you see right here. It rides in that and locks that side into place. And that's it. So it's like a super simple design. One that, what I heard from one of my friends who used to work there is, this is one of those things that they were working on for a really long time, trying to get it exactly right. Put a lot of time and resources into it to get this technology to us. So I think it's really cool. Maybe you think it's chintzy, or you think it's kind of whatever, something you'd never use. I think it's a great selling point. And, I recognize that it does make your knife more versatile, more useful in a lot of ways. So I'm digging it. One thing that I think is a downside to it is that you need to have a certain amount of tension between your top scale and your left scale and right scale. You have a certain amount of tension there in order to be able to close that. And you can't sort of over tighten that, or you won't easily be able to unlatch it, and vice versa. What that means is you end up sometimes with not perfectly centered blades. And that's the case with the slacker here, and that's the case with the home front there. So it's just kind of a byproduct of that cool takedown system that you're just going to not have perfectly centered blades. And it came centered very well, but that just meant the pivot was slightly over tightened. And then as that kind of loosened, then things kind of shifted a little bit there. And I could definitely turn that back. I could Loctite it and so forth, but that would make this a little bit harder to turn, a little bit harder to push back into place. I don't want to wear that mechanism down. So I'm just going to live with the fact that it's slightly not centered. And that's fine. That's fine with me. All right, guys, I think that covered it. You guys saw some of that test footage, gave you the price, the weight, and all that good stuff, and my opinion of the knife in general, as well as the Fieldstrip technology. We didn't show you all the other knives. So there's the slacker, there's the Ken Onion Ripple. These are all sort of CRKTs, not all of them, but a bunch of them. There's the Hootenanny. Reviewed that one before. I like that one as well. That's also a Ken Onion design. There's the Home Front, pretty cool knife. That's the Leak. And then I did show you this bad mofo, and it don't know if it covers, fits on screen or not. We'll lay it right over here. Look at the size of that, man. Anyway, lots of good knives from the Ken Onion CRKT collaboration that have been brought to us thus far and still coming in the future, I certainly hope. And I think the slacker, extraordinarily good, extraordinarily good. Ken Onion designed this as an EDC for himself, enjoyed having it, saw, let some of his friends take a look at it, and they're like, man, you gotta produce this. People are gonna want this knife bad. I love it. I love the feel of it, love the size of it. The design is gorgeous. Ken, you did a great job on this guy. Yep, a couple little downsides, as I mentioned before, but overall, I absolutely love it. Didn't talk about the little grooves up there. I think that's kind of like a fish and bird type of a thing where you're, gutting and cutting in certain ways. And you might have noticed that the Hootenanny had the same thing up there. I believe that's the purpose for that. That's the review, guys. CRKT Slacker from Ken Onion. Thanks for watching. See ya.